heck is...
"9/11, horrific moment, right? Everything changed. The government used that to grab more power. The Patriot Act. Sign that thing way too fast. Way too much power was surrendered. The Department of Homeland Security has enough power, enough money, enough with the budget, enough agencies, right? It goes on and on and on and on and on. Now, at this moment, they've gotten everybody whipped up about the drones. They're going to go to Congress and ask for more authority, more power. I think this is what it was all about. And what they actually asked for and how they asked for it, that's the danger right there. But it's not going to happen because we're on to it.
So is Greg watching the show?
Well, I think Greg's watching the show, bro. This is just a clip I shot off my TV late last night after falling off the couch in shock. He goes into absolutely word for word what we covered the other day. And look, either he found it on his own, which is wonderful, or he watches the show, which is wonderful. Either way, nobody has gotten close to the analysis that I put down on Tuesday. The Daily Mail did come out with an article with just different names, the same theory, different names of corporations involved, which could be correct because I was just surmising about the red cell corporations that were running the drones because it's not Department of Defense. It's obviously someone they farmed it out to. And this is the same theory that I had on Tuesday. If you want to read that article, you can find it in the Daily Mail. But I suggest you really watch Greg Kelly from last night's show because he lays it out 10 times better than we could because he's obviously got production value and producers. And it's just me and Hunley too. No, I'm saying it's just at the end of the day, it's me and Hunley in our underwear trying to wing it. And everyone else keeps pecking away at our subjects and saying, hey, these guys seem to be onto something. Why don't we just pump it up and run it on our show? Which seems to happen all the time now. It's kind of funny, but more power to Greg Kelly for amplifying what I believe is the real thing, that this is something that they want to legislate and put out a drone version of the Patriot Act. And we gave you the numbers of the bills last week. Kelly's on it, and I think that being transparent is the best example of how we can keep an eye on this stuff and have it amplified by people like Greg Kelly and others to not let them get away with shit like this.
Well, we know that it's state oriented.
Yeah.
You know how we can tell?
Mm-hmm. How?
They rolled out the show.
Roll out the Cuomo.
About danger, aliens. It's about why there isn't danger. How do you know? Why can't he explain that? Independent journalist Michael Schellenberger says the government isn't being straight with us, and there's a reason. Yeah. He's out with a new...
I just had to say this because I saw this the other day. 2 weeks ago, Schellenberger testified before Congress, and he claimed to be an expert on UFOs. And a guy who is an expert on UFOs interviewed him after his testimony and said, basically, when did you become an expert on UFOs? And
when he got the brief.
Yeah, when he got the brief. And he stammered about it, and he was going hemming and hawing and saying, I've always been interested in UFOs and blah, blah, blah. His whole UFO thing goes out the window when he goes on Cuomo's show. Now it's about drones. They're not UFOs anymore. He's got a new talking point from the deep state. Now he's saying they are drones and there are no UFOs. I've never seen a 360 turn by a deep state talking head like this in my life. How quickly it went from UFOs to drones because the news changed. He was merely jumping onto this congressional hearing with deep state talking points 3 weeks ago. But now since the drone thing happened, he's now an expert on drones.
Well, I mean, it goes to show you that the bench is pretty damn shallow.
Yeah.
Because they have to keep rolling out freaking Schellenberger. I mean, he's everywhere.
Yeah. Well, it also shows you how few people they could trust to do this and how they have to make them polymorphous subject-wise, how they have to be into a lot of different things so they could cover a lot of terrain. And they need longevity. I mean, this guy switched from being the darling of the green movement to the darling of the pro-nuke movement to the darling of the UFO movement. Excuse me, the Twitter Files movement.
Twitter Files, yeah.
Right?
That was left field, too, by the way. I mean,
completely left field, Eric.
Like, wait, how the hell did he get out here? And then that was the free speech warrior. And then he...
Dude, it was obviously Taibbi's terrain and obviously Barry Weiss's terrain.
Sure, yeah.
And some people who have really in-depth journalism bios.
Mm-hmm.
Schellenberger gets in there, and he's part of the trio. Inexplicably, you forget that he runs for governor of California.
Well, he's like Bob Woodward.
He is Bob Woodward, bro.
It's just like all of a sudden, boom! And when's he getting his Pulitzer? I mean, he's falling short there, I guess.
Right, and then I mean, they have to fold him in because they can't trust that many people to do this type of work who have that amount of bullshit that won't quit. I mean, wow! I couldn't believe I saw him on this story.
I know Berenson has to be pissed.
Yeah, Berenson was being slotted as the man, and somehow he completely fell apart. Keep in mind, I still think that Tucker has a lot of skeletons in his closet too.
100%.
And don't sell me on Patrick Bet-David, who had on Oliver Stone and his son this week. I highly recommend people watch this interview because Oliver Stone's son, Sean Stone, has a documentary series out called All the President's Men, about the different people who were jailed under the Trump lawfare attacks, made in cooperation with Tucker Carlson. There's so many tentacles to this thing, I can't even keep my head on my shoulders. Plus, I'm sick as a dog, and I want to thank Francis Fitzgerald, whoever you are up in Bellingham, Washington, obviously a friend of the show, for sending me a Zabar's care package, airlifted in from like a Berlin airlift today. To my house. Francis Fitzgerald, one of the great Irish names of all time, probably a fan of JFK. Thank you, Francis, for that. Haven't gotten in there yet, but a box arrived with a care package from Zabar's.
All right, well, you led to a perfect segue to a late breaking story here. You were talking about.
Okay, hold on. Let me back up a second because the Oliver Stone, Sean Stone will lead into this. Okay, so they're on with Patrick Bet-David, and Patrick Bet-David is, going through Oliver Stone's movie career. It's kind of embarrassing because he is just a fan of movies who believes that Cocktail with Tom Cruise is the greatest movie ever made.
What?
Okay. Oh, no. I can't even explain it. Patrick Bet-David's favorite films that he's watched 100 times, and he's asking Oliver Stone, like he's talking to a guy in a bar. It's so cringeworthy. I can't even tell you. He's like, he thinks that he's talking to Oliver Stone as he's going, hey, what's your favorite film, Oliver? Which the one you watched over and over and over again? Because mine is Cocktail. What's yours? I mean, it's so embarrassing. And Oliver's trying to be super polite, and just go, when you look at a film, what do you look at? The actors? Or Oliver goes, well, I look at the whole thing. It's not really worth describing. But they get down to the Sean Stone part, and Sean Stone, he says he's got this new documentary series out about all the president's men. And it's not all the president's men like Watergate. It's all the president's men who are jailed during lawfare. And he apparently did this in coordination with Tucker. So he gets into this thing where he begins to not even explain the series, but he begins to get into the Middle East conflict, right? And his father goes berserk. And he says Patrick Bet-David says to Oliver, you've interviewed a lot of bad guys, Oliver. You interviewed Chavez, Castro, Putin. You interviewed a lot of evil dictators. Who is the worst guy you ever met in your life? right? Of all the dictators, all the documentaries you made of all the evildoers in your life. And Oliver goes, it's only one guy, obviously, it has to be destroyed. And that's Benjamin Netanyahu, the most evil man on the face of the earth. He goes on, starts salivating. He goes, this guy is the most dangerous man on earth. He's got to be destroyed. And it just goes into this tirade.
Wow.
And Patrick Bet-David pushes back, and he said, I don't agree with you. He says, but let me ask you about Israel. So Sean Stone chimes in, and he says that they start talking about AIPAC and the lobby and everything, and they put up the numbers that are donated to the campaigns by AIPAC, and it was like $100 million total. And he puts up that Musk himself donated $250 million just to Trump. And he says, well, here's Musk. He donated 2.5 times more than the entire nation of Israel. What does he get out of this? And they kind of started stammering. And he says, I ask you this. What is the leverage? And I've asked this to other people. What is the leverage that Israel uses to control these people in Congress? Dead silence. That no one's ever thought this through. And Patrick Bet-David, to his credit, says anyone I ask this question gets stumped. They're completely stunned. The people who talk about AIPAC and the Israeli lobby and the influence on the country. He says, what is it that Israel has that makes us do their bidding, right? Because it's obviously, something that they didn't think through. And all of a sudden, Sean Stone says, well, the Jews love money. And he goes, what? And he says, yeah, they're a secret society. They love banking. They control the banking. No, dude,
he went to it. He went all the way to it.
Full on. It's almost near the end of the interview. He goes full on conspiracy, protocols of the elders of Zion. And I said, wow, it's kind of weird, because they're really the Silversteins, right? His father was embarrassed. He was a Wall Street broker. Wall Street was very WASP back in the day in the 60s and 50s. He changed his name to Stone from Silverstein, and that's how Oliver got Stone. The father is Jewish. The grandfather was a schmata dealer, person in the pants business. The mother was French Catholic, who he married when he was coming back from World War II. Nevertheless, it turns out that Sean Stone goes full protocols of elders of Zion. Jews control the banking. They control the money. They're not bad people. They just love money. That's how they control America. And I'm sitting there with my eyes bulging out. And you know what? I didn't know that a couple of years ago, Sean Stone converted to Shiite Muslim. Out of the blue, woke up one day and says, I'm going to become not just a Muslim, full-on Shiite Muslim, Eric. Did you know this?
No, you're not joking.
I'm not joking at all. I'm sorry. I thought that was an expression. Oliver Stone says, I don't like Israel. My first wife was from Beirut, Lebanon, so it's obvious why I don't like him. And then Patrick Bet-David, to his credit, is trying to push back as normally as he can without being rude, to his guests.
Well, Bet-David knows the Middle East well. I mean, that's what
he kept saying. He said, I'm going to keep my opinions to myself, but I just want you guys are the guests, let you explain your points of view.
Okay, yeah. I can't believe that.
Surprised, not shocked. Is this one of the Hunleys? Surprised?
No, this is both.
Okay, all right.
I'm shocked and surprised. I'm just saying.
Because now he's in bed with Tucker. I'll get a better one for you.
Yeah.
They asked Sean Stone, how do you identify now politically? He says, well, I'm for Trump, obviously. He goes, what? He says, yeah. He says, I'm a constitutional Republican. And he goes, what does that mean? He says, I'm a Republican who believes and worships the Constitution of the United States.
That's Sean, not Oliver.
Sean. Now, Oliver says, I'm somewhere in the middle now. He says, I hate Biden. I hate the Democratic Party. He said, I'm a contrarian. We all need contrarians. I guess I say things that contradict. He admits he's a contrarian. That's why him and Bill Maher usually go at loggerheads, because it's one contrarian versus another.
Imagine if Scott Adams joined them.
All three, that would be the greatest contrarian Three Stooges of all time, bro. I mean, oh my God, I didn't even think about that. But yeah, I mean, I've said that for years. Oliver Stone's a contrarian. But to get into, I haven't seen the footage, but you could go to this Direcky thing if you want, or you could go to the General Flynn movie, one or the other. It's your choice, Eric, at this time.
I'm sorry. I'll go to
Yeah,
the
either way,
I'm
still, I'm
trying to recover from this.
The reason, well, just let's do the General Flynn movie first. Let's just do the General.
Now you do that when I don't have it pulled up.
I'm sorry. I'm all scattered. I'm sorry. I'm sick. The General Flynn movie, which people have told me to watch for a number of months, I finally sat down and watched the whole thing last night. It's breathtaking. It's visually breathtaking. It is emotionally breathtaking. You will get emotionally tied up in this film with General Flynn and other people involved in this, who are some other talking heads in this thing. But it's mostly Flynn and his family. This is about his family, his wife, his kids, him. And it is breathtaking because I had forgotten half of this stuff. And he goes into stuff that we never knew before in this movie. Now, they almost bankrupted him. They raised money with their GoFundMe to pay for the stuff at the end. I forgot about the court cases. I forgot about that black judge named Sullivan out of DC who wouldn't let it go, Eric, even after it was dropped by the Justice Department. It's all in this movie. I strongly, it's about $4.99. It's on one of your paid platforms at $3.99, Prime or somewhere on there. You could find it if you just Google it. Strongly, if you're an American, if you love this country, if you're a patriot, I strongly recommend you watch Flynn. It is a masterpiece. Now, the masterpiece credit is uncredited, which is what I was talking to Eric about before the show.
Yeah, because I said, who did this? And the Mark said, I don't know. So I started looking it up, and all these sources said Flynn directed it. And I was like, oh, it must be a family member. I'm like, no, he's married in 81. No, the age is working out here. No. And then it was like I found articles saying that General Flynn, or that he directed himself. IMDb said he directed himself. So it's very up in the air because Mark went back. He said, no, that's not true. And I'm like, well, hey, there's some contention here.
Yeah.
And sent you sources.
I figured out who directed it because I went through the credits with a fine-tooth comb, and buried in the credits of 1 million people is a marketing director, in the credits, and it's Amanda Milius. She directed this film. For whatever reason, took her name off of the credits. I don't know if it's creative differences. There's one point of contention where this might possibly be it. Near the end of the movie, Flynn has a beef with Trump, who called him a liar. And there's some contention between him and Trump. He says that Trump had a lot of forces against him. That may have been why Milius bailed out. But the film is shot by a professional director. It can't possibly be Flynn himself. This has so much cinematic expertise to it that it looks like Amanda Milius directed this. I'm going to stick with that. There's nobody credited, by the way, on the film as being the director. And I think
there's the other dude who was the producer and all that, who did some other stuff that has some
right. But even he doesn't have the gravitas to pull this off in terms of his background. There's underwater photography. I mean, there's so much incredible B-roll. It's a professional director who did this. There's some people. I mean, Flynn's an executive producer on it. That means he raised the money for it. But nevertheless, you have to see this movie. If you believe in anything that about lawfare and you thought you knew it all, you don't. Believe me, you don't. Oh, you forgot like I did half of it. Fantastic movie. Now, that being said, that's why the Sean Stone thing interested me, because he covers similar terrain in his 6-part series with Tucker, which I haven't seen yet, but it's 6 different parts. And I think Flynn is part of it because I saw a trailer and Flynn was in some of that footage. So I think Sean Stone covers some of the same terrain as the plot to take down America, which was directed by Milius, from the book, The Plot Against America, which was written by a guy from the Village Voice, and Milius made a movie out of that. So there's a lot of overlaps.
I just thought of something. It's not complete non sequitur. You mentioned Sean Stone converting to Islam, right?
Not just Islam, Shiite Muslim Islam.
Right. Okay. Andrew Tate also had supposedly converted over.
Well, his father's not Oliver Stone, and Sean converted in 2012.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I didn't know that. I did not know that. I mean, now he's with Tucker, and he's in like Flynn, to coin a phrase.
I wonder if he's writing with Daryl Cooper.
I don't know, but there's a lot of sketchy stuff going on here. There's a lot of deep state stuff going on here, which can lead us into our next story that you were showing on the thing there that just happened today. This documentary was pulled today from the Sundance Film Festival. It was about to be screened. At the last moment, it was yanked by the director, Eugene Jarecki, who cites unexpected developments from sources outside of this film universe and says, if I don't include this information, this is an incomplete film. Now, what that means to me is
I'm saying pardon, but what are you saying?
No. This is the deep state who saw his film and now wants to put in more hatchet jobs on this guy, like he hasn't suffered enough, Julian Assange. This is deep state hatchet work at its best. They will give him additional money to put in the additional stuff, the information that they want to be put in there to continue to destroy Julian Assange. Okay. How do I know this? I know this because of a movie.
Your sound is going in and out. And while you're doing that, I'll pull up this chat here. Tucker is financed by an Iranian American, which I've heard that bandied about. I'm not sure who or what, but very interesting.
It's very interesting. I mean, is it Patrick Bet-David or? I mean, who could it be?
I'm not sure.
He wants to get into the movie space. In this interview with Oliver, he says he wants to get into the movie space. But anyway, how's this sound now? Is it okay?
Yeah, it seemed to come back. I don't know what was.
Yeah, I think it's lit up. Okay, so the Alex Gibney does We Steal Secrets. Gets a call from Universal Pictures. Universal is the conduit of deep state money here in Hollywood, as among the other studios. That they're not involved in this. Usually Universal is the tube that the deep state money goes through. They get a call from Universal, and they said to him, would you like to do a hatchet job on Alex Gibney? This is, I think, in 2016 when the movie came out, We Steal Secrets. And Gibney says, how much money is it? He goes, $2 million. And he says, okay, I could do that. So he begins to go to work. Now, keep in mind, Alex Gibney is the son, as we've covered on the show, of Frank Gibney, who was a Operation Mockingbird deep state CIA agent who worked at Newsweek for many years, a friend of Alan Dulles, and
who could not quit, if I recall.
He could not quit and have a letter that says, please let me quit, to no avail. So that didn't work out. But nevertheless, his son picked up the goal where his father laid it down and becomes this deep state director of deep state films. He's got one coming out now on Elon Musk, which will be a hatchet job. He's got one coming out now on Bibi Netanyahu. That'll be a hatchet job. All of his films are deep state hatchet jobs. Now, getting back to this film, I believe, like a film called Icarus by a guy named Brian Fogel. I don't know if you remember this film. It was about like, it is a good movie.
It's about steroids and cycling.
Right. It was about steroids and cycling, and he screened the movie, and he was approached by deep state operatives who all of a sudden gave him a lot of post-production finishing money if he would add in stuff about the Russians doping and the Russians stealing and the Russians doing stuff, which was not in the original film. So he goes back to the blackboard, and you could see the film change direction to where the deep state put in the stuff that they wanted him to put in. And we know this because he's admitted it privately. So they give him all this money. He puts in the deep state stuff, and the movie gets Academy Awards, and they pull all the bells and whistles to open doors for him. Never works again. Takes the money, parties down in Malibu, and he's whoever he is, right? Now get back to this Jarecki movie. I just want you to put that back up on the screen. The Jarecki thing, which is happening right now about Julian Assange. Eugene Jarecki decides to pull this film at the last minute, saying, I wouldn't do it if it wasn't the most important information on the planet Earth, and I can't complete my film without it. Based on previous examples of this happening, this is the deep state worried about this film not being harsh enough against him, I believe, because I don't think Eugene Jarecki woke up one day and said, I've got to make a pro Julian Assange film. I think he made a film about Julian Assange that might have been slightly harsh, but not harsh enough for the deep state. So the deep state saw a screening of it and said, we'll give you some money to put in this extra information. Okay, so you say, who is Eugene Jarecki? Eugene Jarecki is the brother of Andrew Jarecki, who did The Jinx on HBO. Eugene Jarecki did The King. He did Reagan, a hatchet job on Reagan. He did The Trial of Henry Kissinger, a hatchet job on Henry Kissinger. He's a deep state, another deep state guy, right? Maud, we'll get to in a second. If you can hang on, we'll just finish this bit here. Anyway, Eugene Jarecki, I get a call one day from Oliver Stone, and he says, I want you to come and meet a friend of Sean Stone, my son. And I said, who is it? He goes, it's some director. And he had directed The King. He made a movie about Elvis Presley, which is an entire movie disparaging Elvis Presley. That was his last film, saying that everything about Elvis Presley is stolen from the black world, and he's a hack and has no right to exist. Okay. Nobody really liked that, but nevertheless, I sit down for a meeting at Oliver Stone's house with Eugene Jarecki, and Oliver said, this is a director who wants to make a documentary about Oswald, Eric. And I said, oh, that's interesting, because we were working on the miniseries at the time. And he introduces himself to me, and he says, yeah, I think Oswald was a communist who killed Kennedy. And he tried out different political points of view. It didn't work out. And he went back to communism. And I'd like to make the documentary, and I'd like you to give me all your research. No, he's not even done. He says, I'd like you to give me all your research, sign a non-disclosure agreement. I'm not going to give you any money. And I said, who the fuck are you again? And I look at Oliver, and he's just kind of smirking. And
sound went out again. See, when you talk about the CIA, your sound gets affected.
Well, they're doing it for a reason. And he says, I am Eugene Jarecki, okay? And I said, well, I don't really know who you are, but you sound like the most arrogant person I've ever met, and I've met a lot of arrogant people in Hollywood. But I got to tell you, pal, why would I give you all of my research on Oswald? And he said, again, because I am Eugene Jarecki. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You know what I mean? Anyway, this did not end well. And I looked at Oliver, and I just said, you got to be kidding me, Oliver. And he said, look, I did it for Sean, as a friend of Sean's. He said he had nothing to do with it. But anyway, I just wanted to put that out there as to who Eugene Jarecki is. His father, the wealthiest banker in the Northeast, has bankrolled all the films of all the kids who were directors, and the father is one of the wealthiest bankers in America. The father's name, I think, was Henry Jarecki. I don't know if he's still alive, but holy cow, what a weird story.
All right, so we do have our guest who's here. You want to do an intro?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's not really, it doesn't really have to be an intro, because Maud has been on the show before. Maud comes out of, I believe, a place called Brooklyn, New York. I believe she was working somehow with the Board of Education in New York. I believe she was ostracized for reasons of being not woke enough back in episode 1 when we had Maud on. And Here Comes Maud is obviously something she's heard many times.
All right. And here you are.
Hey, Mark. Hi, Eric. Nice to see you both.
Welcome back. Happy Hanukkah, honey.
Why, thank you very much. Happy Hanukkah to you. And one correction, I'm a Manhattan girl, not a Brooklyn girl, although both my parents are Brooklynites. So.
I knew there was a Brooklyn connection. I forget what it was. Yeah, we looked up your family tree, and we found a lot of bagels. Now, okay, so what's going on, Maud? What's the deal?
Well, I like.
Wait. Tell us where you left off last time. Remember, we left off in episode 1 that you were being harassed and censored by the school board.
Yeah. I like how you say, it was very concise when you say for not being woke enough. And that's really what it is for any sort of common sense person in New York City right now. But I'll tell you, well, let me give one really important thing up front is that I am running for Manhattan District Attorney. I've run for office before, and I am throwing my hat in the ring one more time because I really do think we need some common sense values in New York City, particularly when it comes to getting rid of Alvin Bragg and having a district attorney who understands that the job of prosecutor means you actually have to prosecute crime. It's a really important part of being a prosecutor.
Right.
But to back up to what you were saying is, yeah, I've been on the receiving end of a lot of criticism from a lot of crazy people over the last few years. It started way back when in like 2019, 2020, when I was on the school board and I was sticking up for basically meritocracy. We have specialized high schools in New York like Stuyvesant and Bronx Science and Brooklyn Tech, these sort of famed, we call them specialized high schools. They call them exam schools in other places. But basically schools, you got to take a test to get in and you got to study really hard for the test and do well. And the crazies want to call it white supremacy or exclusionary, discrimination. It's not. It's just giving public school kids, and I have 4 children, all of whom are public school kids, one of whom just graduated. But, public school kids need to have a really high quality education to aspire to and to use as a launching pad into higher education and into careers. So the truth is, I got chased out of my job, chased out of all sorts of, democratic establishment places for not bending the knee to this idea that merit and achievement and hard work is white supremacy. It isn't. It's so stupid. Now, many, many other people will say that plainly.
Right.
But back then in 2020, when BLM was ascendant and everybody was afraid of being canceled for racism, it was really like dangerous waters, and people would privately tell me that they agreed with me, but not want to say it out loud, sort of thing. And then there's been a lot of, that I thought schools should stay open. I thought putting masks on toddlers was idiotic. Forcing people to take a vaccine that they didn't want to didn't make a lot of sense to me. And so I also offended the Democratic establishment with a lot of those positions. But then the thing that really, really, really made people mad at me is the fact that I know the difference. Actually, Mark, when you wrote to me for the first time, you said you're from Brooklyn and you know the difference between a man and a woman. In your wonderfully succinct way, that also just created a connection where I thought, this is one of my people. And I am on my school board. I'm elected to Manhattan's largest school district, and I passed a resolution in March merely asking for a review of the 2019 gender guidelines, which allow all boys who say they are girls access to girls' sports, girls' locker rooms, girls' bathrooms. I didn't even say that was wrong. It is, of course, totally wrong. That's my personal opinion. Yeah. But in my role on the school board, all I said is, it's been 5 years of this policy. We should review it. And this time, we should include female athletes, coaches, parents in the conversation, because when they created the guidelines in 2019, they just did it through the Gender and Sexuality Alliance clubs. So they just went straight to the sort of people that already agreed with each other on the issue, and they changed all the rules and they left out the people who would be most significantly impacted, like female athletes and girls who, might have a different perspective. And
I'm sure that was just oversight. I'm sure it's just oversight.
Maud, when you bring up, and I just want to ask a question. When you bring up Title IX, what do they say in their attacks on Title IX, or their non-defense of Title IX, or how do they explain Title IX?
Well, what they've been doing really is saying those who will actually engage on sort of those terms, Mark, are people who will say that the law is on their side. And really in the Biden years, they're right, because the Biden administration and really going back to Obama really tried to change sex to gender identity. And so they were pushing that. And that's how the New York State law is to some extent now there and New York City. So they try to advance a legal argument that's saying like you're discriminating based on gender identity, and New York law protects people based on gender identity. And then they really just always ignore when you say like female athletes have lost all these medals and scholarships and opportunities. They just go straight to you're a bigot and you're hating on trans people and you endanger the lives of the most marginalized, blah, blah, blah.
So it is part of the hierarchy. I mean, women are just lower in the triangular hierarchy that they've created, I presume. Yes. That's the answer.
Yeah. I mean, we're not as low as like white, straight, cis men.
I'm the bottom.
Hey, wait a minute, lady.
You're second to the bottom.
Wait a minute.
You're at least, you've got Jewish, Mark.
I'm adding Jew on it. I'm on the bottom even further.
No, exactly. No, you're above me.
No, I think the Jew might go below you there, Hunley. But
I
okay,
think Mark
so
might be right about that.
So yeah. So okay, so where are you now with this thing?
So that is, look, I'm not going to change my mind, and there's nothing you can change. You know, I am not ever going to believe that people can magically change sex. And I particularly don't believe that children should be lied to about their bodies and the fact that their bodies can change into, you know, that doctors can fix them and match their identity, because really tragic stuff has happened to vulnerable young people by telling them lies like that. And I just, you know, people who know what we're talking about, like the evidence is now legion as to how many kids have been hurt. In my school board, every single month since March, when we passed this, a parade of men in dresses shows up at our school board.
Where are you, downtown? Where's the school district?
It's District 2 in Manhattan, is all of the Upper East Side of Manhattan, largest part of Midtown, straight down through the West Village, Soho, Battery Park City. Like, it's a really huge swath of Manhattan. It's
also a swath that covers multiple cultures.
Totally. Yeah. It includes Chinatown. It includes like projects on the West Side. It includes all the ritzy Fifth Avenue addresses. Like it's a big cross section of New York. And guess what?
I think they might need smaller districts, Maud.
Well, I don't disagree with you on that, but the sort of good governance of reorging the Department of Education always comes up against teachers' unions' interests, and parents tend to not win as often as we should on those things.
Okay, so these people show up in dresses, they shout you down.
They shout, they yell, they scream. No, look, I'll say this. There are parents who have really bought in hook, line, and sinker to the trans ideology, and they love their children just like I love my children, and they want to do what's best for their kids. I am really capable of sitting down and talking to people about it, and I'd be happy to do that. But what happens at these meetings now is theater. It's like people with sound machines and people yelling and screaming and carrying on. That doesn't solve anything. And and absurdly, what happens is, you know, if someone stands up and says, you know, I'm a lesbian and same-sex attracted people, like the reality of biological sex is important, they get booed. I mean, when you're booing the lesbians, you've sort of lost.
Dude, if you lost the lesbians, that's dark.
From my understanding, the LGB is starting to split themselves off from the T and beyond community. Have you seen that?
100%. And like I'm saying, the lesbians get booed at these meetings because these are people who say biological sex is real. Understanding my same-sex attraction is very, you know, I can't do that without the reality of biological sex.
Right.
And, you know, the acceptance, the huge acceptance that we've seen over our lifetimes for gay marriage and gay rights. A lot of people think two things. Like, one, they think it's getting chipped away because of the like radicalism of some trans activism, but also some of that trans activism is really homophobic, right? Telling a little boy that likes pink and likes dresses that there's something wrong with him or he was born in the wrong body. Like, why not just tell him he's perfect the way he is and move on with it?
Yeah.
Like, who cares what toys kids want to play with?
Well, do you remember, you may be not old enough to remember this, but I remember when the gay parade, it might have been in the early 80s or mid 80s, the pedophiles tried to get in, the NAMBLA tried to become part of the gay parade in Greenwich Village. And that became a bridge too far for a lot of people, that NAMBLA would be part of this. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't remember that, but it makes sense to me because at the time, like the litigation, the activists around gay rights was very much, we're just like everybody else. We're just gay. Like, you know, it wasn't this thing of like, we're this super special, marginalized, oppressed, special category of people. It was just like, we're your neighbors. We're like everybody else. We're just gay. And it was politically an enormously effective and successful movement.
Well, let's talk about you running for DA, because I'm getting aroused by the idea and it's really turning me on. Now, what do you have to do to defeat this guy? What do you have to do to get on the ballot? What do you have to do to raise money? Where can we send you money? Give us all
I'll
the
give
dirt,
you all
how
the
we do this.
details.
Give it, because this is like a pragmatic show here. I
Yeah,
want to know
well,
how
I'll
to
tell
get
you
shit
this.
done.
I am a little bit inspired by Los Angeles at the moment because
Well, we had Nate on here. Hochman, next thing I know, he's prosecuting crime in LA, becomes the district attorney.
we now want to copy LA. There's lots
Okay,
of things you
yeah.
do in California that I don't want to copy in New York, but getting rid of your Soros-backed progressive prosecutor and
Yeah.
turfing out the Chesa Boudin in San Francisco, that I'd like to copy. And we can do it in Manhattan. It is not easy. The numbers are not, easy. The registration, Democrats outnumber Republicans extraordinarily in New York. But right now, Alvin Bragg has no Democratic challengers. And right now, I'm the only declared opponent to Alvin Bragg.
Let's do this. Let's do this.
You can go to maudmaron.com right now, and it just has a sign-up sheet and a donate link. The full
Okay, just repeat that. MaudMaron.com.
It's my name, Maud,
M-A-U-D,
M-A-U-D.
Maron, not related to Mark Maron, the podcaster.
I am related to Mark, actually.
I knew you were. I knew it. I knew it. Oh my God. Okay, we'll talk about that in another episode. But his garage is pretty close to where I live.
I think Mark's dad and my dad are first cousins.
Oh my God, what a small world.
Yeah.
Okay, so they go to Maud
Maron.
Don't send it to Mark Maron. Send it to Maud Maron.
Exactly.
At maudmaron.com.
Yeah. And there's going to be like a full website with various policy positions and things that we're working on right now that are coming out in order to get it. But that will give you can donate there, you can sign up for more information there, and you can, keep up with the campaign. The reality is this, like Alvin Bragg, I don't really need to tell any New Yorkers about Alvin Bragg because we all know how bad he's been for New York. And there's these big high profile cases, like he arrested Jose Alba, this older Dominican guy who was like fighting for his life when someone came behind the counter and tried to kill him.
That was terrible. That was terrible.
Absolutely. Then there's the Daniel Penny case where you have this Marine who literally tried to protect the other people on the subway from someone who was violent and out of control. And, they really tried to put him in jail. And luckily that Daniel Penny case ended in an acquittal, but it never should have been tried at all.
Right.
And in fact, yesterday or today, the headlines of bad crime in the subway, you can't, come fast and furious in New York, but someone was just slashed on the subway. And that's what people in the subway know, that they're, that they're on the razor's edge with some of the people that are on the subway now, because there's many factors, but the absolute failure to set bail on people who are repeat violent offenders, people who are, the young man, Jordan Neely, who came onto that subway that Daniel Penny restrained and who died, and nobody wanted to see that person die. He had multiple violent arrests under his name, and he had been offered housing. He had been offered all of the things that we're told are better than incarceration. But when you're that mentally ill and that drug addicted and that on your own, it doesn't keep you off the streets. It doesn't help you get the treatment you need. You really need a carrot and stick with a certain population of people so that you can compel treatment. Right. And you can't compel someone who hasn't broken the law, but we're talking about, I'm running for district attorney. When you have when you have the ability to use the criminal justice system to compel treatment for someone who desperately needs it, to not do it is not only bad for all the people that ride the subway and that can get hurt by that person, it's bad for the individual too, right? And because I'm a former public defender, I've worked very closely with this population. And I know for sure that there are people that will absolutely never get themselves checked into a program or return voluntarily to a program.
What can they do with them? I'm talking about the violent, schizophrenic, homeless guy on the street. What can be done legally with that person?
Those cases, someone like Jordan Neely, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, he would have been incarcerated on any one of the three. He fractured a woman's skull. Like any one of those cases would have involved bail being set And what you have then is you can prosecute the case fully, or you can offer an alternative to incarceration. And that alternative to incarceration is staggered, right? Like first it's an inpatient facility that you can't leave, right? That you have to be in. If the treatment, if someone becomes compliant with medication and or is, able to moderate their behavior, they can graduate, they can move on to something that's like a halfway house and then move forward. But what you have with the criminal justice system is you have a jail sentence hanging over their head. So if they decide to walk out the front door and just leave and start doing street drugs again and start beating people up again, you can impose a criminal justice sentence. It's not, I wish there was some better way to help people that were schizophrenic and that but that is one way to actually really help people and to protect citizens at the same time.
Well, do you believe insanely, like in LA here, that the homeless should be given an apartment and that's the treatment?
Of course not. I mean, not only is it wildly expensive, it doesn't work. If someone is psychotic or schizophrenic, or they don't need a lease, they need mental health treatment that they don't want, right? Like that's the thing that's the missing ingredient, is that a lot of people, and part of why a lot of schizophrenics and a lot of people with mental health issues are doing street drugs is because it helps with the voices in their head, and so it helps
with the voices in my head, for Christ's sake.
But it's really hard to titrate the right kind of medicine. And it's very sad if there are people, if people, and there's a lot of families out there that have someone they love who has gone down, who's had that real mental illness, it's really hard to titrate it. And just saying like, here's a subsidized apartment, here's an appointment with some social worker, like that doesn't cut it. It doesn't help people that are really desperate, I
know. Well, okay, let's leave it here. We've only got a few minutes with you. I want you to come back as we get closer to the election and give us an update so we can raise some funds for you. These people have big mouths who watch this show. I want to see if they can get off their fat asses, look through their couch, and find some money.
I'm a New Yorker. I love loudmouth, big mouth people.
Okay, but I'd like them to get off their fat asses and look under their couch for money and send it to you, as we did with other candidates for various elections, because everyone on this show, on this planet, on this platform, hates Alvin Bragg, and getting 87,000 votes to become the most powerful person in Manhattan is insane. Yeah. So A, we need turnout, and B, we need new blood.
That's a good point. Even with fewer Republicans, still few people vote on these local elections. Is there a way to just inspire them to show up and dig into an audience who wouldn't normally think about?
Well, part of why I'm running against Bragg is because
Gross, who is a rabbi turned lawyer who is defending the J6ers, he has a tie into the Orthodox community in Brooklyn that I think if they turned out for you, that would be 40,000 votes on your side on day one.
Mark, I love your dedication.
Thank you.
Brooklyn, but I'm running in Manhattan.
I know, but they can come into Manhattan. There are Orthodox. If you look downtown, down on Delancey Street, there are still Orthodox Jews down there who can back you. I know there's a lot.
It's a beautiful, diverse borough. It sure is.
It's a beautiful, diverse borough. There's a lot of Orthodox Jews who want to see Alvin Bragg gone, who would support you. Just my opinion.
There's a lot of Manhattanites who want to see him gone all over the place.
Right. And there's a lot of people across the country.
Yes.
George Soros got in here, George Soros, what's his name? The Cuban got in here not just by himself, but with the help of George Soros.
Right.
There's a lot of people across the country who would like to help you.
And New York it's home to Manhattanites like me, but it's also a tourist destination for people all over the country and all over the world. We have to have it be a safe destination city where people can come and visit us and be safe.
Is it safe now? I mean, what's your take on what's the vibe? I'm New Yorker to New Yorker. Tell me what's your feeling of on a scale of 1 to 10.
I walk out the door every day, and my kids go to school every day. The fact is, it's much less safe than it was 10 years ago. Much less safe. It's less clean. It's less safe. You see people. 10 years ago, you didn't see someone defecating on the street as you're walking down 6th Avenue, and now you do. And you can feel bad for the human being, but also think, I don't want to live like this. I don't want to live in this crazy land where we have this deteriorating public health and public safety. So it's less safe. It's still wonderful, wonderful New York City. It's why I live here. There's such, but we know in very recent memory how much better it can be and it should be.
Right. I mean, the hotels, are they filled with these people from various countries now? I mean,
well, we're spending so much money on migrant shelters, and I will never understand why we put both people recently released from Rikers and people recently crossed the border in the South illegally in a hotel in Tribeca. It's like most people can't afford to go to a hotel in Tribeca. Why are we doing that? It's insane.
Oh my God. All right. Well, Tribeca's out then for me. All right, Maud, we're gonna cut it here. We want to see you back in a month or two. Let's keep this thing rolling. Let's see if we can get some momentum behind this.
I'd love to come back, Mark and Eric. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Happy Hanukkah, honey. Thank you.
Happy Hanukkah. Bye, guys.
All right. See you. Thank you. All right. Well, there we go.
Wow, that's helpful. I hope these people will help her, because a lot of people complaining about Alvin Bragg. Now's the time to do something. If you have any connection to New York in your heart, or entertainment wise or anything else, or just for the cause of Americana, getting this woman in and getting Bragg out, this may be your chance here, and maybe your last chance, because now there's a window with Trump coming in where there's a change in the air. If this guy gets back in, I want to ask her about the trial of Luigi next time, because that's going to be on Bragg's watch too. But now the feds are coming in on this.
I like that though, because I feel like the feds are stepping in because of that BS. I still can't believe that you only have second-degree murder or anything under a cop. But that's just ludicrous. That is just completely ludicrous.
I was once robbed, and I went to the precinct, and I said, "What do you got to do to get arrested in this town?" He says, "You got to kill someone." And the other cop laughed and says, "No, you got to kill a cop." And it was like their little dark humor, but nevertheless, it is really second degree covers everything. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Which I just don't understand. I mean, I'd have to read the definition of it, but everywhere else,
it's pretty broad. The second degree is pretty broad.
But what I mean is that typically, from what I understand, first degree murder is premeditated murder, which is 100% what you. But so second degree is like, crime of passion is what I've always understood. That
second degree is like first degree in other places.
All right. Well,
yeah, it's bizarre, but nevertheless, the Fed stepping in, making the terrorist charges are good and bad, because the idea that he's a terrorist can possibly be easily dismissed by his attorney, because the logic is that anyone who murders anyone is a terrorist. Okay, but it allows the feds to get their foot in the door for the death penalty. So that's a plus. The bottom line is they are going to say it was temporary insanity and try to plead that out. We had this discussion last week. We don't have to go down that road again. Napolitano saying the similar thing, because there's just very little wiggle room. Now, his wife, the wife of the husband, who is the lawyer for Diddy, these are a couple now who are going to be extremely wealthy. They're now with Luigi and Diddy. Imagine that pillow talk, Eric, at night.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that the terrorist angle is a stretch. I mean,
it's a stretch.
If you want to talk about John Muhammad and his partner in Washington, shooting the gas, that's terrorist. I mean, I think that's pretty clear. Or the Boston bomber, that's terrorist. I think we'd agree on all those. This is one person taken out, obviously first degree, horrible murder, but I don't know about the terrorism. That does seem
like I said, I don't understand why he chose someone in healthcare when his beef was with the medical community. But that could be resolved that may come up in the trial as to why he went after someone. In other words, would it have been bizarre to you if this guy had killed the head of Exxon and said fossil fuels have to end? This is my whole point. I'm opposed to fossil fuels. Everyone knows it's inflicting climate change damage on us. He would have the same heroic boosters around the country.
Sure.
And people would just go, okay, that's how I feel about this connection to healthcare.
What would be interesting is we'll have to see what he was researching, because this guy might have literally been a nut and just saying, okay, I'm going to be a hero. I'm going to do something special. oil's out. Nah, that's not hot right now.
Right. I think
this
that's
is
the
out.
case.
That's
That's why I'm mentioning it. I think that's the case. Because he's not a client. He was not a member of United Healthcare, a paid insured client. I believe he's wealthy enough to not have to bother with premiums and other things that normal people have to bother with. He could be a Robin Hood type figure where he says, I'm doing this for the little guy, but okay, that I have to learn about. I don't know that offhand. What I do know is from the information that we have that he, in his opinion, received or was injured by bad back surgery in the Northeast. It's with some Northeast doctor who I pity the poor guy when that leaks out of his name. That guy's going to have to leave the country.
Well, and I also wonder, okay, there's different elements to it. You had mentioned, and it's hard to say coccyx with a straight face when you think about it all. But anyway, that he could have had damage with his performance ability. Because
coccyx.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. It's kind of
coccyx.
hard to, say with a straight face. But anyway, because his movement and everything, seeing how he's moving around with the cops and everything does not seem as terrible.
You could still be in total pain if you move a certain way. That's really doesn't cut it for me. He's claiming to have been in, and his friends say this. I mean, his friends were talking about what anguish he was in from the surgery. So look, is it level 10? I don't know. Is it 9? Is it 11? Who knows? Is he on opiates? Is he on Vicodin? I don't know. Did he go to crystal meth to offset the Vicodin? This is a traditional route with bad back surgeries. Is they prescribe Vicodin or Percodan. You get hooked on that, and then you got to go to the street because you're cut off. There's a lot of rage involved in getting cut off by doctors. There's doctor shopping. Then you go to the street to get heroin, and then after you get heroin, you try to get some speedy drug like crystal meth so you can have a balance. I don't know if that's the case with him. I really don't. It's a typical case. I don't know if it's the case with him.
I don't know.
But I'll tell you this: Bragg's got his hands full because that family has such deep pockets, Eric, that they are not going to roll over for Alvin Bragg. You know what I mean? There's going to be a fight here. Some people think he's going to cop a plea. I don't think he's going to cop a plea so easily.
I don't know. It depends on his goal. And the reason why I say that is he did some very stupid things. Like, why do you keep going around with your fake ID you showed somebody else? Why do you print yourself a second gun very similar to the first one and get caught with it? This is somebody who almost, and he could be sending mixed signals. I mean, the same question was asked of, Ted Bundy. Did you know that Ted Bundy had escaped literally out the window?
He went through the roof. He got out in Colorado.
But guess what?
Yeah.
He escaped from a place that did not have capital punishment to go kill in a place that did. And people are saying, well, psychologically, he maybe did want to get caught.
Good point.
All
Good
that.
point.
So this guy, maybe he wants his big grandstanding moment of, to brag. I don't know.
Again, with the plea deal, he's not facing the death penalty.
No, he's not. So
right, and she wants this thing thrown out as double jeopardy. The Fed charges. She wants this thrown out, saying this is double jeopardy. He's being charged with the same crimes by two different levels of government, and she may get her way on this thing.
I don't think you can call that double jeopardy because he's got to be convicted for
Well, she's calling it double jeopardy charging. I don't know what the legal.
I understand that.
That's all I'm saying. She's calling it double jeopardy charging. But I mentioned Jonathan Gross, and I wanted to stop for a second. Jonathan Gross is a lawyer for the J6ers. He's a rabbi who became a lawyer just to deal with the J6ers. Now, there are people, including myself, who would like him to get a position under Harmeet Dillon in the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department. If anybody has any Twitter connection, which I do, I've done it to Harmeet Dillon, and you would like to see
calling Ron Coleman. Can you talk to your boss? Ron Coleman, talk to your boss. Sorry, go ahead.
Jonathan Gross is a guy who is one of the few lawyers who would take on defense of the J6ers. Most recently, last night, he sent me court documents of him filing a protest against the courts because his latest J6 grandma defendant wanted to attend the inauguration, and the judge said absolutely not, that it would trigger the Capitol Police if she attended this is a grandmother now. This thing has gone so far off the rails that it's reminiscent of the General Flynn case with Judge Sullivan. I don't know if there's any video in here, but this was an article about this. Yeah, that's mostly him though. I looked at that video. There's nothing really in there except the article. Okay. And the article is about his grandmother defendant. But I would like to see Jonathan Gross get into the Civil Rights Division under Harmeet Dillon, who's been picked out of California to be the head of the Civil Rights Division under Pam Bondi. And a lot of people out here, we've had Jonathan on the show before. He couldn't make it today because of Shabbos, but we'll try to have him on a Tuesday in the future. Yeah, here's the.
It's easier in the summer for him to do that. He really.
Yeah, I forgot. I forgot. It was getting dark, 5 o'clock, so we couldn't do it. But we'll have him on a Tuesday, and he can explain the situation and his desire to be in the Civil Rights Division, which I wholeheartely endorse.
I never even thought about that. That Tuesday gives us an opportunity to have people on that we can struggle with on a Friday.
You mean that you're talking about the Jews?
Well, yeah, sure. Well, I mean, hold on. We might have somebody Islam. Don't they also practice?
I don't think they practice on the same day, right?
I thought they did. I don't know. Well,
yeah. Anyway, what else do we want to talk about?
Well, okay. We've got
completely disheveled at this point.
Okay, well, that's fine.
I've covered everything I wanted to cover. I did want to recommend The Kings of Tupelo, as long as we're in the film division. The Kings of Tupelo is a brand new 3-part episode on Netflix about two brothers who are Elvis impersonators in Tupelo, Mississippi, the birthplace of the king. It goes off the rails. It's not just about them being Elvis impersonators, but there are two brothers who are Elvis impersonators. It is a riveting, high art, episodic, 3 parts only, that is so crazy and will tie in events that you thought you knew about, political events separate from Tupelo. I don't want to give it away. It is just absolute. I'm not even finished with it yet. I'm up to episode 3. But this is my favorite show at this moment, The Kings of Tupelo.
All right. Well, why don't we just stick and keep on Hollywood bent? We've got this article. I believe you know Neil McCullough or McDonough.
I don't, but I just watched him in Tulsa King season 2, where they get rid of him at some point, and he comes back and he's fighting to the death. And wow, what an incredible character he plays in Tulsa Kings. But Neil McDonough is a religious Catholic, a real religious Catholic who refused to kiss on screen. Yep. So he was blacklisted by Hollywood for a couple of years. And now he's claiming, he's the only one I've seen say this, that each of the studios have a slate, and people have access to these slates, producing world, that they're looking for a certain type of film. This is a common thing in Hollywood. The studios put out signals that they're looking for a certain type of film. And what McDonough is saying in this article is that all the studios are looking for films of faith at this point, and he's kind of shocked that all of them on their notes going out say they're looking for films about faith.
I mean, that's awesome. That's telling me that the Daily Wire, by the way, who's kind of in the rumor mill news lately, their formula may be working, because they're putting out, movies, and then there's other independents. I think you said somebody out of Austin that you knew, that is conservative. So, I mean, faith is one thing.
Well, he's putting out action films like Dragged Across Concrete and Ride and Cell Block number 99, but he's not putting out faith films. But
still, it's all kind of a thing. It's shifting away from, I think, the.
Well, these faith films are specific. It's a specific genre, and he's involved with a company that makes faith films, and they see the money. It's nothing to do with their changing politically or anything else. It's just about the money. As we see from other areas like the LA Times, the Washington Post, not the New York Times yet, but the networks are starting to change. You're beginning to see the shift, Eric, right?
Right. Well, they're kind of slow to get the memo because Mel Gibson proved that you can make a whole lot of money on a film of faith.
Right. But then he denounced the Jews and went into the toilet.
Well, whatever. Right? Right. I didn't say which faith.
Right.
I mean, good God. All right. Fair enough. Gad Sad. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's
one time I was texting, and I don't know if I said something. I don't even know the guy. I was texting, and I wrote something sarcastic in response to something he said, and he dedicated his life to attacking me for a week. And I'm like, I'm on his side. Dude, it was like he was so aggressive that it scared me.
Oh,
you know what I mean? It was so over the top.
I'll have to look that up because he's an over the top guy. I mean,
I didn't know. Really... This was like 4 years ago. I said something off the cuff, like, whatever, about being from Lebanon. He was Muslim and Jewish, whatever. I made an ethnic joke, and he just went at me as if I killed his firstborn. It was a little too much. I'll just put it that way.
He's an intense guy.
He scared me.
I don't want to generalize too much, but he has the Arabic temper. I think he'll even say that there is a temper.
I don't know. I didn't know.
Patrick David is talking that there's a temper in the culture.
By the way, did you see what's his name from England, Piers Morgan, with Candace Owens yesterday?
I don't really watch him.
My God. Did he let her bury herself? He just said, what is the deal with you and the Jews? She was named, of course, which she accepted the award of Anti-Semite of the Year. There were other candidates. She thanked all the other candidates and she accepted the award. But she went into the fact that her statement, the best one was, just because Holocaust happened to you doesn't give you the right to commit Holocaust on others. And Piers Morgan went, excuse me? And she says, yes, they are committing a Holocaust on the people in Gaza. And Piers Morgan, who's no friend of the Jews, said, the last time I looked, there was about 38,000 casualties. That's not close to 6 million. And she didn't care. She just went on and on and on, and also aligned with the protocols of the Elders of Zion. And holy crap.
I think a blood libel she's into.
She earned that award, my friend. Anyway, check out Piers Morgan with Candace Owens if you want to see.
Well, she's on with her new best friend Tucker Carlson. Being promoted, and somebody did send me the Iranian business person who's behind it. So you and I might want to look into that. I don't want to jump into it now. I think it's something.
All right. Well, we'll wait.
All right. Well, this is from Gad Said. I just thought it was the perfect study in the current times. They managed to roll in all of it in one study. Climate change related disasters and the health of the LGBTQ populations.
Well, they've had this with African American population, so it's not that insane. They did do asthma and climate change and African American populations. Keep in mind, a lot of these spin out of PhD theses by people at random schools where the people on the board go, oh yes, of course. You get a B+ on this. This is great, and they pass them, and they get a PhD in whatever area. It sounds like this might be one of those PhD theses.
Oh, it sounds like a Lindsay special, actually.
Yeah,
but I just love that because oh hey, you gotta get it all covered in one. You think about it for a second, because a lot of especially the trans element of it, they always do the LGBT, get them knocked off there. But you have trans, which is the left, hating science because they despise biology, but they love climate science. So it's like you get both sides of, their sciences. Trust the science. That's not science.
I think at the end of the day, which is coming now, that it's science itself that is going to kill them politically because of their irrational things not meeting up in rationality, Eric, things that you're mentioning. The science that doesn't, we're against gravity, we're anti-gravity, we're pro-gravity, gravity doesn't exist, gravity hates LGBTQ people. I mean, all of this stuff has to come to an end at some point on the logic stream because you can't take it all the way out. The longer it goes out in logic, the weaker it gets, is the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, 100%. And science itself is supposed to be debated. And I think that's the problem. Is that
they hate that.
Oh no, they've changed it. It's like, no, it's the consensus. And it's like, no. Every time, I forgot, somebody made the quote that science moves forward by graveyards or something like that, which is so true, because they literally, you have a body and they're all fixed in their beliefs, and then some younger people come in who start to go challenge it, and it takes the old lions dying off before it shifts forward. I don't know who said that. I probably got it wrong, but it's something like that.
No, the sentiment is correct. I mean, there's something about there, and it goes back to Lamarckism in Moscow, where the Soviets got into a debate with the Darwin people in the United States scientifically. Lamarckism was the belief, Soviet-style science, that acquired characteristics can happen in your lifetime and be passed on to your children. In other words, you acquire muscles as a blacksmith. All of a sudden, your child is born with muscles. That was the Lamarckism, Soviet socialist idea, which fit into their politics. Darwin said it's survival of the fittest. Everybody starts new. You don't inherit these lifetime acquired characteristics. There was a battle in the 1930s in this world between the Soviets and our science that people at home may want to take a look at, because it is exactly what we're going through today with some different elements.
That does sound interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Lamarckianism. Look it up.
And the answer probably is somewhere in the middle, as Dr. Drew's pointing out in studies.
I don't know if it's somewhere in the middle. In this particular thing, they eventually surrendered, the Soviets, because what I'm saying is the arguments became so insane they weren't able to sustain them any longer, and capitulated to Darwin's science as being the overall survival of the fittest, evolution, and that scientific community won the day. But that day took about 20 years of battling with the Soviets over science. And they put in their socialist science, and they said ours was capitalist science. And people may want to look that up, because it has a lot of echoes to today.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know. Somebody wrote this. I don't know what that word is.
I don't know what that is.
Okay, I'll have to see.
I don't know what that is. But
all right. Well, let's go back to. We haven't talked about Trump's major victory over ABC.
Oh my God!
Which is fantastic. He's going on the attack. What I find interesting is now it's starting to come out why ABC did have to roll over. Apparently, Stephanopoulos was told over and over, stop using that word.
Well, not to use it in the upcoming interview.
Well, period.
Before the interview, he was told not to use the word, and then he used it 9 times in the interview.
Exactly. And the reason why it's so egregious is the jury literally had the option. They had 2 things. Did he do crime A, or did he do the 4-letter crime? Crime A, they said yes. Crime B, which is grape, they said no. And
right. But
so
again, this was, like many cases are settled, including I've had cases like this with MTV.
Sure.
On the second before deposition, that's when they settle. I had a big case with MTV. Right when you're about to go to deposition, they settled. And that was the same here, because they did not want those emails and texts from the producers to Stephanopoulos warning him not to say the grape word during the interview. And that was what they stopped. And Trump, many people believe that he could have held out for more money. He could have gone to trial. Keep in mind, the oddity of Trump's cases of being the victim of lawfare is not that he was a victim of lawfare, it's that they went to trial. You know how many percentage of cases go to trial in this country? It's like 5% or 4%. This thing never would have gone to trial. No case goes to trial. That's why the $15 or $16 million was paid out, which was to avoid the discovery, as you know, Eric,
Mhm.
the discovery would have shown the emails of ABC News executives. And
Yep.
that's why they buckled. And Trump is now on the march. He's doing this again. He's going after others. He's going
Yeah,
after
Seltzer.
He's going, well, the Des Moines Register.
Yeah, Seltzer. That's her name, right? Ian
I don't
Seltzer?
think he's going after her personally, is what I'm saying.
Okay,
But her name is
yeah.
Seltzer, but he's going after an institution.
Yes.
And that's the point I'm trying to make. And
They're doing an interesting thing with that one, though. I don't know if you noticed. He's not. He's going after them on a consumer protection law.
Interesting.
So
the goal's the same. The goal's the same.
No, I know, but it's a different angle because it's very difficult to go after them for defamation.
Right.
Yeah,
Again,
especially on
the
that.
goal is to have a judge simply green light the trial and discovery. And that is why he's picking these weird angles to get to discovery. The gold mine is discovery.
Yeah.
But the point is he's going after institutions that have wronged him.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
100%.
Yeah. I think there'll be others. And it's not going to be defamation.
Have you followed the shall we say battle between Dan Crenshaw and others on X?
No, I have not. You mean Patch, the pirate guy?
This one.
Oh my God! Look at this.
This guy. Okay. Nick Sorter, I believe it's Nick Sorter. He's kind of a reporter out there, puts a lot of stuff out on X. He had reported that Dan Crenshaw was involved in a group that was trying to vote themselves a pay raise. And Dan Crenshaw went off the rails at him harsh, just saying, you're effing this and that, stupid what you incel, and he ended it saying an incel. He's like, I wasn't even on the whip committee, blah 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 blah. And so then Cat Turd, which I have trouble, went after Crenshaw, saying, hey, I noticed you made a fortune, since you've been in Congress. How'd you make all that money? And then Crenshaw went after him, saying, I fought and bled for my country. You're nothing more than a piece of blah 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 blah.
Whoa, Crenshaw.
So this guy, this cartoon is essentially representing it. Wow, that's a lot of ice cream. No, it isn't, you lying piece of shit. I served this country milking cows abroad so you didn't have to.
That's fine.
And what were you doing? Watching Sesame Street like a coward. The real people with too much ice cream are incels like you. Anyway, it's a pretty funny.
I want our friends in this great state of Texas to explain to me Dan Crenshaw and Chip Roy, because now Chip Roy is on Trump's target radar. Went after him with hooks and tongs yesterday. Who are these two douchebags? How did they get elected in the great state of Texas? I'm addressing this to my Texas friends. You can comment down below if you're from the great state of Texas, if you love Bob Wills and San Antonio Rose, if you love the border states, comment down below, because I do not understand what these two mutts are about in the Republican Party. Crenshaw, they seem like the same guy, Chip Roy and Crenshaw. Cornyn, I get. He's like, he's a senator and he may represent Bush oil interest or whatever that is. I kind of understand Cornyn. But these two, I don't get it. I really don't get it.
Well, okay. Maybe they're related to the former Speaker of the Texas House, that lost his job, the one who went after the Attorney General.
I don't know. I'm going to ask the people of the great state of Texas. Okay, let's ask them.
I'm wondering if it's that. And also,
I don't know.
That Texas was Democrat not that long ago, and I think a lot of them converted over.
Right.
Chip Roy, he voted for Trump's impeachment. Class.
Well, again, he went after him yesterday all day, Trump.
Oh, yeah.
Then he came on TV, came on Newsmax last night trying to rehabilitate himself in some feeble, sweaty effort. He looked like he was sweating during the interview in his closet.
Well, okay, we have somebody
Desperate man.
Somebody here is defending him. Walk to here from Rumble is saying Chip is not a douchebag.
Okay, that was informative.
Yeah. Okay.
Let
me see.
He voted for Trump's impeachment, but he's not a douchebag? How does that work? Exactly. I don't know. How does that work? Explain that. A Republican from the great state of Texas voted for Trump's impeachment, but you claim, for reasons I don't understand, that this guy's not a douchebag.
Oh, here we go. That was what I was talking about.
Okay.
I was saying Chippy was in the crew that went after A.G. Paxton.
No, I knew that. That I know. Yeah, that makes him an even bigger douchebag. The douchebaggery of this cat is starting to build, and Trump has vowed to primary him.
Okay, and to answer your other question, Crenshaw duped a popular conservative radio guy, and he pushed him. Radio guy has apologized.
Oh, well, there's an answer. But okay, so he could be voted out. He's not in there for life.
Oh, it's Charlie Kirk. He suckered Charlie Kirk, maybe.
Oh, interesting.
No, that can't be right. It might not be right.
That doesn't sound right. It's probably some AM big shot down in Texas.
It must be. Yeah.
But I'll tell you right now, Chip Roy, the eyes of Texas are upon you.
Oh, that makes sense. He's from Austin.
Everything seems to make sense to you. Every single tweet they put up there.
Yeah, it's because we're communicating here.
Yeah. He'll put up the next one. He'll say, oh, that makes sense. Whatever the next thing is.
Well, in fact, he's from Austin. Yes.
Okay,
Austin is there, San Francisco. What do you want?
All right. Well, he's going to get a primary.
Well, I'd be fine with that. Fine with that. All right. Where they will not be able to buy supplies to celebrate the primarying of Chip Roy?
What?
Party City.
Oh, I just went to Party City the other day when we had our meetup. We had the meetup. I bought all that stuff from Party City.
Yeah, no more.
And I'll tell you something else. When we went into the store to buy stuff for the meetup, the election night meetup, there was nobody in the store. There was 3 people behind the counter. And I said, this store is not long for this world. And Big Lots today also went down.
No way.
Big Lots, yeah. Pull the plug.
Oh,
well, there goes your Christmas shopping, Hunley.
Hey, what are you trying to say? I don't shop that heavy. I use the dollar store. Come on.
Okay.
Jeez, can't believe you. Thinking that I'm some rich hoity-toity going to Big Lots.
Hoity-toity.
Anyway, yeah, that's sad seeing these things go. And of course, everything's just going right to Amazon. Every supply.
Well, the Teamsters have said they're going to strike Amazon all over the country. Again, Amazon is not unionized, which makes it this aberrational democratic stronghold that's not unionized. And Bezos, who is kissing the ring right now, Jeff Bezos is at Mar-a-Lago right now kissing the ring, while the Teamsters are threatening to strike tonight at midnight or yesterday. I'm not really sure. The Teamsters are the trucks that take the stuff away from Amazon. So it is the only union connection to Amazon. He has fought surreptitiously, above board, below board, to undermine unionization of Amazon since its inception. There are documentaries about it you could watch. And yet, he's one of the biggest contributors to the Big Lots is gone. He's one of the biggest contributors to the Democratic Party, Jeff Bezos. Yet one of the biggest anti-union guys, and they don't hold his feet to the fire. They don't hold his feet to the fire because he's one of them.
Well, I mean, that's
as a donator.
That's why he is one of them. Obviously he got in line with the quote power, and now he's like, oh shit, I got to get into the other line.
But he may be switching sides, Hunley, is the point. He may be going over to the other side, the anti-union side.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense.
I would have loved to have been in that meeting last night with the Google Indian communist and Trump down in Mar-a-Lago. I mean, how do you come in and explain? I'm so sorry, Mr. Trump. I'm so sorry. I know I spent trillions for your opponent. But I am sorry. How can I express myself?
But you see, the thing about Trump is he probably like, oh, that's good. Here, how do you like this? Here, look at my thing here. Look, all the guy has to do is flatter him, and he'll go right along.
Well, I don't know how you flatter him when you've spent you're the biggest contributor to his opponent who called him Hitler. That takes a lot of flatter.
Okay. Well, let me put it this way. It doesn't take long to say, I spent everything I had and I couldn't stop you. You were too powerful for me. And there you go. Trump will go right along with it. Okay, somebody's saying that it is fake news that Chip Roy did not vote to impeach.
Again, forget. Let's move on. Let's just move on from there. I know you're obsessed with the story, but in the Patrick Bet David episode, he put up the numbers for AIPAC for each candidate, and it was 2,300,000 for the Republican and 2,300,000 for the Democrat. It was off by about $35, and the total was about $4 million for Trump and for Harris.
Okay, well, you know,
the point of the matter is they played both sides. Is the point that I'm trying to make, and that's what Bezos is going to do. I don't know if Google did that, which obviously they didn't. They put all their eggs into the Harris basket and lost. I believe that Bezos probably did what these other people did, was to split it, Democrat and Republican, which is what a lot of corporate guys normally do, right?
Well, that's the tradition. You butter both sides of the freaking bread to make sure your ass is covered. I mean,
but this Google Indian communist can't do that. He went for all the marbles and he lost.
Yeah, and that's nuts.
That is nuts. I agree.
I mean, anyway, and yeah, AIPAC is. You never know who's in charge, so I guess you want to give them.
Boy.
All right.
Maybe you have a super chat there after all.
Okay. Well, here we go.
No, don't give me Chip Roy, please. I'm done with Chip Roy for today.
they're not done with you.
Well, they can put it in the comment section. That's what I'm saying. Unless you're putting up some money, as Barnes says, we're done with your comments on Chip Roy.
All right. Well, you know what? Let's talk to
super chat. Go ahead, bro. All day.
All right. Well, you know what? Dick Dickerson put up money and
that's guy
20 Americans Untold Stories
this
membership.
Guy, he's a real man. He's a real American from another foreign country.
Yes.
Right. I think. Isn't he like he lives somewhere else, but he's an American?
No, that's Pew Pew.
Well, where does Dickerson live? What country does Dickerson
Missouri.
That's not a foreign country, but that's a.
Well, it can be to some. No, I don't know.
A red state. A red state.
A red state with some blue cities.
Yeah. I told you my answer to the blue cities is we got to get in there and elect the Maud Maron of each blue city in each red state. We got to get there's a person there in every city.
Yeah, I don't know. Diffuse 56 said, "You guys ever see Sean Stone's show on the Gaia channel? It's called Buzzsaw. Sean's way into ghost hunting, demons, etc." He was also on Jesse Ventura's show about conspiracies.
I've seen the Jesse Ventura one. Yes, I have, and I remember seeing him on RT. You know, but the Buzzsaw one I skipped. Ghost hunting I skipped. He's kind of like a Michael Schellenberger. Yeah, and there's another one named Amaryllis Fox, whose career was. Let me just say, harpooned by Tom Cotton this week, who also did the same situation with her resume, going on all these different shows, hosting that narco show on history I think it was on Discovery, where she was the host of a narco terrorist show, and then
like 3-episode thing or something.
No, it was more than 3. And then, of course, she was the star of the Hunter Thompson movie that her husband directed. She played the reporter in that movie, which was a big feature role. She tried the acting career. She tried the memoir career. She tried the drug hosting career. She tried the campaign management career. And now she wanted to get back into running the CIA career. And I'm no fan of Tom Cotton, but he drove a stake into that, and I'm glad that he did.
All right, so where's next for our Fox?
I believe she will attempt to get some role in HHS, which is what I wouldn't care about under Bobby if she did. And that because that isn't as harmful as being deputy director of CIA, or she may completely have thrown her hat into this ring as a Hail Mary and now just get out. But I predict she may become the campaign manager for Nicole Shanahan if Shanahan runs for governor of California against Kamala Harris, which I'm still predicting. I'm still predicting that there may be a Harris-Shanahan governor's race in California.
I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Candy Harrison's a new member. Thank you.
Oh, it's about time, Candy. What the hell's been going on over there? Don't look at me with that face and smile.
And Dustin with $75 said, outside of the JFK research, Mark's contributions to help those with addiction is the best content of this channel.
Well,
God bless everyone.
We try not to have that as content, but nevertheless, it does kind of spill over from my private life. always willing to help anyone with addiction.
Let's see. And Pew Pew gifted 10 America's Untold
Now
Stories
he lives
memberships.
in Denmark or something, right?
Norway.
Norway.
Yep, he is in Norway, and very reliable, giving a lot of memberships. Super, super generous. We deeply appreciate it. And you know what? We are going into the holidays, Mark.
Mm-hmm.
And have you already got gifts for everyone?
Yeah, I'm done.
Well, you may.
I'm like an early guy. I get it over with. I go early.
Well, not everybody is so early, and there's always room for a last minute gift. And,
Like what? Like what are you saying?
Like some coffee. And
What?
why is coffee such a great gift? Well, one, what do you give somebody who has everything and they just are like, I don't need more stuff. I just don't have any room to put anything anywhere.
Cocaine.
You get them some wonderful coffee. It's consumed. It goes away. It's something that people can enjoy. And we're running really quickly into the holidays. Christmas is just coming up next Wednesday.
Hanukkah's the same day.
Yeah, that Ron was telling me. So
yeah,
the cultures have aligned this year.
Every couple of centuries they align. Of course, ours jumps around because we're on the Jewish calendar, but every once in a while it lines up.
All right, well, there you go. And for Christmas or Hanukkah, you can always enjoy some coffee. This is America's Untold Stories Supreme Breakfast Blend by our friends at Moondo's, which is a veteran-owned business. Again, it's I don't know if you call it craft roastery, but I mean it's very, very specialized, high-level coffee. Really, really quite delicious. And consider getting it. And you know what? You don't even have to worry about shipping. They do have gift cards available.
They do?
You can always send a gift card. It's a good last-minute type of
never look a
item.
gift card in the mouth.
No, definitely don't look it in the mouth, but definitely consume this coffee with your mouth. It is much, much tastier. Charlie Don't Surf said, great show, gentlemen. Thank you.
All right, Charlie.
And Gnome on the Range is a new member.
Okay, welcome. There's plenty of room on the bus.
Carl Burkhalter is saying Crenshaw and Cornyn are Bush adherents. Attorney General Paxton stomped George P. Bush in the election. They have little influence, but lots of money.
I knew Cornyn was, but I didn't know that about Crenshaw. Okay, that's a good answer.
Yeah, it is. And hey, Gnome on the Range not only got their own membership, they gifted 5 to other people.
Interesting. No.
So thank you very, very much.
Interesting.
Gnome on the Range.
Way to go. No place like Gnome.
No place like Gnome at all. All right, so let's see. You sent me this one earlier that we got a little more New York corruption here.
Oh, yeah. I've been talking to our Northeast police correspondent for America's Untold Stories, Al Gonzalez, about this one. This woman is a deputy police commissioner. You can't make this up. She's about to be indicted for finagling her overtime to where she made about $235,000 just in overtime a year. This is how she dresses for work. She hasn't been on the beat in 20 years. They threatened to put her back on the beat in the South Bronx, where she immediately resigned and fled to the Bahamas. You can't make this up. She will be indicted. Deputy Police Commissioner. That's just one indictment of one of Adams' apparatchiks. There's a second indictment of his second in command. His deputy mayor was also indicted yesterday by the FBI, the local authorities. I take that back. It was not FBI. Local authorities for giving out jobs to her son and his friends and accepting bribes for up to $100,000. She will also had a wonderful perp walk with her. They walked her. The New York police are the best perp walks in the history of the world. They took this kid Luigi for a perp walk from hell, from it was like the Midtown heliport where they land their helicopter.
They had like 60 people around.
No, but the walk was like 8 miles along the dock. A perp walking super slowly, saying, "Look at me, I'm on TV, ma." Of all the different people who were perping him, Alvin,
It looked like it. Honestly, it looked like the Joker or something.
yeah,
You know, all
exactly.
around. It's just insane.
It was crazy. But the perp walk of the deputy mayor was good too. That was a good long perp walk for all the cameras. She will go to prison. Adams is, getting surrounded now. They're closing in on Adams, and they're picking off his administration one after another now. It seems like one of the most corrupt administrations to O'Dwyer in 1952. If I could just go back in mayoral historic politics for 5 seconds, where O'Dwyer was sent by Truman to be ambassador to Mexico to avoid embarrassing the Democratic Party as the mayor of New York in 1952. This administration, whatever you think of Eric Adams blowing with the wind, changing, blah, 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 this is one of the most corrupt New York City mayoral administrations I've seen in my lifetime.
By the way, we have an episode on the Dwyer administration.
Yeah, on the Mayor Dwyer. This administration, not LA is running a second place or maybe ahead of them in LA, but the FBI again arrested someone here in LA on corruption charges here. The only thing that really stops these people is the FBI. Whatever you think about them, the FBI, when it comes to corruption, legitimate corruption in urban politics, has been very good.
Yeah, I mean, well, they're cops. I mean, they
know
down the line FBI are
right,
are
because
cops.
it's when you take away ideology and you just have straight up corruption without planting evidence. And dude, they get into this with the FBI in the General Flynn movie. This stuff's never been revealed before, that Flynn and his son reveal in this documentary. It is hair raising what they did to them.
Wow. All right. All right. This is such a fun thing. We're wrapping up the Biden presidency with oh, by the way, yeah. All the administration officials are coming out and saying, "Yep, he was gone. He's bonkers." Yeah.
Well, they want it in by the 12th hour, so they could say we said it during his administration.
Yes. Yeah.
At the 11th hour, they're going to get it in under the board. Chris Cillizza was one, right? Remember Chris Cillizza?
Yeah, that's scumbags. Now he's doing an apology tour.
Yeah. They all are.
Let's see what he had to say.
Yeah, go ahead.
Dishonest, egotistical, crazy, tired. It's actually what Biden is. And they covered it up. We had a corpse's staff running the White House for years. And the Democrats and the media hid it until debate night. Now they're saying, I'm sorry.
As a reporter, I have a confession to make.
Can you say reporter?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, go on. He used
to be a real reporter.
Earlier for more information about Joe Biden's mental and physical well-being and any signs of decline. Republicans would regularly ping me and say, why don't you ask more questions of Joe Biden and how he's doing? He's 76, 77, 78-year-old man. And I would sort of brush them off, because what I would say is, well, there's no obvious evidence that he's declining. The White House and the people around Joe Biden were absolutely adamant that suggesting anything, asking the question about whether he was in some physical, mental, or both decline was offensive. How could you?
Yeah.
You see, so full of shit, because he even tried to backpedal. They're talking about his age. It's like, no, nobody is saying his age. They're saying this dude's falling upstairs.
Well, again, to defend Cillizza, he says that they threatened him by accusing him of ageism, by questioning anything about him. And it's not just Cillizza. Other reporters have said and commented on the strength of the pushback, Eric, was so strong. And that's one of their modus operandi on the left, is to push back against anything at a level 10 or a level 11 to make sure it drives a stake into you. It's one of their telltale signs that they're lying, is the level of pushback. And he said, Cillizza and other reporters are now admitting that the level of pushback drove them back from ever questioning his his brain power or his senility or anything regarding age.
Well, that's gaslighting 101. I mean, think about it in any abusive relationship, because I consider the smallest cult to be an abusive partner. And in any relationship,
about a cult of midgets or
those two, any cult.
Okay.
I mean,
you said the smallest cult, though.
That's the smallest cult is
the less amount of members.
Right, fewer members. The smallest amount is an abusive partner,
right?
Who's gaslighting, because that's basically what you're doing. Just expand it beyond. If you question it, they go overboard. Like, why are you late? Why are you questioning where I've been?
Oh yeah, that's over the top.
And that's exactly what they're doing. It's not over the top.
It's over the top, and they did it to everyone, and the questions went away. They went away, Eric. And then, of course, anybody who pursued it was in favor of Trump.
Oh, well, you know what? They definitely push those questions away because they want acceptance, Mark.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, the San Francisco Health Department is concerned about acceptance. So they've hired a weight stigma consultant.
You know, this weight stigma consultant said that anyone who questions people eating cake nonstop is a bigot. The Cake Eating Society is the Bakers Association of America should pay this fat fuck for being their spokesperson, because they're backing up anyone who eats cake cannot be questioned if they're obese. And she is now going to be on the payroll of the San Francisco Health Department, the health department.
For a second, you know what's funny? It's sad. This is the state we're in. You said she, and I was like, oh, okay. I didn't know if that was trans.
I had read the article, so I found out it was
okay.
But it doesn't really matter. This fat movement is probably the last dying breath of the woke movement, that we're going to see this begin to get peeled back as the Trump effect takes place and rolls out across the culture of the United States. It'll eventually get to San Francisco. The reason San Francisco is San Francisco is even in the 1920s, the Soviets set up shop there in San Francisco and realized that this was an area that they can exploit far away from the centers of power, Washington and New York. The Soviets and the far left members of the Soviet KGB set up their operations in 1920 in San Francisco, realizing that they could work on Washington state, which is what they did, and they could work on Oregon, and they could work on Northern California. Surprisingly, nearly 100 years later, those areas are still controlled by communist thought and communist culture.
All right.
Yeah.
And you found a home there.
Yeah. Well, I'm operating behind enemy lines.
I got you. Yeah, okay. Well, then maybe what you're saying is the people are going to evolve like the squirrels are evolving.
You know, this was freaking me out because the other day I was in the park and there were a lot of squirrels. And I said to the person with me, "Are you noticing how many squirrels there are?" I mean, there were squirrels everywhere. And I'm a fan of Naked and Afraid, as many of the people know. And sometimes they have to kill a squirrel if they can find a squirrel on the show and eat the squirrel. There were so many squirrels that we started making jokes about the fact that if it was a Naked Afraid episode in Griffith Park, you could survive on the squirrels. Well, here's the reason. The squirrels have gone completely carnivore. They're eating rats, they're eating mice, they're eating birds. Squirrels that only ate little acorn nuts and stored them in their jowls are now becoming vicious carnivores in California, shocking children who've seen them rip apart poodles at this point. This is getting crazy, Hunley.
Yeah, I had no idea.
I had no idea until I read this. Yeah, but that being said, it explains why there's so many squirrels.
Ooh, they might be coming for us because there's that speculation that humans advanced because of eating meat.
Yep.
That it caused the brains to increase in size. So
right.
Does this mean that generations?
They look bigger. I just want to point that out. Other people have said it, so have I. They look a little bigger than they used to look out here.
Yeah. I mean,
I could see a battle between the coyotes and the squirrels coming up, where it's going to be, a bunch of coyotes and a bunch of squirrels, and it's going to be to the death.
Wow. I don't know. We've got, I don't know. We won't spend much time on it, but another crazy school shooter.
Yeah, I don't know
This
what
one,
to make about that one. Yeah.
well, apparently this one studied other school shooters, and then now I just saw a headline, and I didn't get a chance to dig in, that they've arrested an accomplice.
That's rare. Oh, by the
Yeah.
way, a number of sources are citing that Luigi had to have had an accomplice within the hotel, and they're not buckling. There's 3 or 4 legitimate people, investigators, police investigators, who are saying that Luigi had to have had an accomplice.
Well, we've been saying that since day one.
Yeah.
If not an accomplice, somebody to guide him.
Yeah.
In some way, because it was so insider knowledge,
He
and he's
couldn't,
not
yeah.
really from the area. So, you said, "Oh, I knew that just going up here." That it would be like me
was
going
so
to the city. How would
right?
I know?
He went to 178th Street. He took the train down to Penn Station to take the train to Pennsylvania. Not only that, he came with that electric bike that he stashed somewhere in the alleyway. I mean, he had to know that that bike would not be stolen overnight. And then he's there the second he gets off the train, moments before the victim comes out of the hotel that has multiple exits.
Right. So, like a local, he knew it so well. It was like he was a local, right?
The point is accomplice. And he says in his manifesto, not that we should believe that.
Oh, yeah.
He
Don't
says,
worry. I was alone to save you
I
time.
had no accomplices. Not that we should believe that, but
Yeah.
it might have been someone who had a beef with healthcare. Let me just point that out. It might have been a legitimate person who had his ear, and I'll just close with this. He was on the cell phone with someone at 6:15 that morning on camera talking to someone that they have not revealed who the hell he's speaking to at 6 o'clock in the morning. This is moments before committing the murder. Who is he talking to, Eric?
I have no idea, because he wasn't talking to his friends, because they were all saying, "What's wrong?
Okay.
Why aren't you answering? What's going on?" So who knows?
Okay, well, maybe there's a mystery friend that we're going to have to keep on this thing, because that is a weird part of this case.
100%. All right. This is back in your way too. Southern Cal man arrested, accused of acting as a foreign agent for China and influencing the local election.
Yeah, it's money from the Communist Party, caught red-handed, influencing an election, paying, just $80,000 towards a candidate. Ironically or unironically, the article is very thorough, except for leaving out the name of the candidate. Apparently, that's not allowed under American law, to tell us who the hell the Chinese were buying. I think eventually I'm going to stay on this thing and find out who the hell the guy was. I assume he's one of a handful of Asian candidates throughout the state. So this is not going to be that complicated. But in the court documents, I think it says something number 1 or whatever. Yeah, this is not going to go well for this guy.
Yeah, probably not. All right.
But it shows you that they are. You want to talk about election influence? I don't see any Russians arrested for this.
All right, this one you sent me. We're coming down to the wire with TikTok.
I saw that today. I had no idea. Frank McCourt, the former owner of the Los Angeles Dodgers, his wife, Jamie McCourt, was a Hillary Clinton aficionado and wanted to run for president of the United States. She cheated on him, famously had a divorce in public with Frank McCourt, the owner of the Dodgers. I never disliked Frank McCourt. He was a guy who still to this day owns the parking lots around Dodger Stadium. He's a billionaire, famously sold the Dodgers to Guggenheim, the company, and kept the parking lots. And they all laughed at him saying, good luck, you can have the parking lots. Well, the parking lots are generally—
That's the money.
The parking lots turned out to be the money. He operated parking lots in Boston. The real Contessa in this relationship was Jamie McCourt, who cheated on him with the Pillsbury Doughboy, as I called him. He was the heir to the Pillsbury fortune, who lived out in Malibu. And I broke this story because I ran into them in a alleyway in Dodger Stadium, tongue kissing, when I went to go to the bathroom, one Dodger game. And I said, holy shit, that's Jamie McCourt with this young guy from Malibu, who I dug down and found out was the heir to the Pillsbury fortune. And that was the end of their marriage. She then
that was the end of Mark's writing about the
that was
Dodgers too.
that was no. I didn't get fired for that one. I didn't get fired for that one.
Okay.
The years later, I got fired for another one. The owner of Guggenheim was having an affair. I got fired for that one. But this one I stumbled into, and I went back to my seat with my friends in the front row in the box, and I said, "You're never going to believe what I just saw." And I told them. And within a couple months, they were divorced. But she hired David Boies. Now, you know who David Boies is. David Boies is the former Clinton attorney, also the one that the fashion models hired to go after Jeffrey Epstein, that started this whole thing with Epstein. David
also
Boies,
went after Microsoft for the
right. But David Boies was a heavy hitter, and she got a cover story in the LA Weekly where I was working about her divorce. And in other words, she got her story out first. And that divorce became a very public divorce out here in LA. But I never had a bad spot. A lot of people hate Frank McCourt. I don't think they know the true story as much as I do, how she screwed this guy over. But nevertheless, that being said, I had no idea that he's in line to buy TikTok.
By the way, that just reminded me of something. The highest paid employee at the University of Arizona is not the football coach, not the president, but the one who runs parking.
Oh, wow.
Because it is the biggest money maker for the entire campus. There's always short on copying. Always short in parking, and it's like printing money. But we're talking about stories, so let's talk about the LA.
Again, the hits keep on coming. He has now. This is the owner of the LA Times, who is now trying to move this paper back towards the middle and save it from destruction. Today, he has said that the editorial board has to lay off Donald Trump in the editorials. He's tired of seeing his name repeatedly. They now have to send him the emails of the editorial board. They are flipping the F out at the LA Times. They are jumping out the windows spiritually. I don't think they're going to jump out the windows physically because they like the paycheck. But this guy, again, reading the tea leaves, not unlike others, has decided to end this anti-Trump periodical and firing the editorial board, refusing to have an endorsement, getting rid of his daughter. And now this. Holy crap.
Good on him. Good
Wow.
on him.
Wow. Go Chinese big Pfizer doctor.
Yeah, I'm happy to see progress. But you know what? There's a reason why he got rich enough to buy the damn paper. You know, a lot of these, it's like, Bezos and the others.
Yep.
They're not dumb.
No.
they got their fortune for a reason.
Same with Patrick Bet David, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Patrick Bet David is accused of running an MLM. I'll put it that way.
I don't know what he's running, but it's
multi-level marketing, insurance. It was insurance,
Whatever.
They buy in.
I agree. But he's got like 29 companies now, and he's above reproach.
Well, as a matter of fact, I've been thinking, there was all the speculation about the Daily Wire buying Tim Pool.
Mm-hmm.
I've always thought that Tim Pool was angling for Patrick Bet David to buy him out, or I wouldn't be surprised. We'll see.
Okay.
Dustin said, I took a drone downtown because it was cheap. Now I'm in jail.
Let me tell you something. These air helicopters are about to be launched here in Los Angeles. They launched an air boat that is in Lake Tahoe that takes you across to the other side in winter and in summer now. Not as a ride, but as transportation. It's $50 to get to the other side of Lake Tahoe. It's a hovercraft. But the air taxis are about to launch in Los Angeles. This is going to be really, really bizarre. This is George Jetson stuff.
Oh, they're
this is George Jetson stuff about to happen out here.
About 20 years late. Everybody thought that was going to happen by the millennium. Remember?
Right. Well, somehow they got an investment, or they paid a French firm billions of dollars of LA taxpayers' money to design these things under Garcetti. And now they said they're done, and they're willing to launch these on a trial basis.
All right.
Air taxis.
All right, Soul Doggy, he put up some cash to talk about Chip Roy.
Okay, that's what I like.
Chip
Thank
Roy
you.
is a douchebag. You guys are great, and you've been on a roll since a beautiful election.
It's one of the greatest elections of all time, my friend. I mean, it is. There's too much news to even cover in 2 fucking days, but that makes it worth it when you back us up on the douchebaggery
And pay.
and pay. Right?
Thank you.
Hunley's happy with that one.
Stephen McMahon, my father went Alzheimer's, and my brother and I recognized that old Joe had it right from the beginning.
You know, the people who first identified it were people like Stephen McMahon, who across the country, the people who saw it first, at least anecdotally, and told me about it, were people who had relatives who had the same thing.
Yeah, that stiff walking and
there was a lot of different things, right? It's
Yeah.
not just the stiff walking, but there were different tells that are specific to that illness.
And almost no other.
Because old age does not mean Alzheimer's. Old age,
No.
you could be stiff and have old age, but it was the cognitive, the stuttering. It was a lot of different factors.
Well, we also had a case study of Donald Trump at the exact same time. They're not that far off. They're only a couple of years apart.
Okay,
and
stop yelling at me. I agree.
One guy, who, full of energy, and
I
then the
know.
other guy.
I agree. I agree.
So it's like,
I'm 85. Look at me. I take the juice pills. You ever see these commercials
the
now?
juice pill?
The juice pills are everywhere. These commercials are nonstop. I'm 76 years old. You wouldn't get it by looking at me, but I could play 18 rounds of golf on a given morning and still take these juice pills every day.
You know what it is? This is telling you Mark's watching habits. What you're watching on TV is
Newsmax. Every commercial on Newsmax.
You're watching old man TV.
Crack it up. It's every single. You don't know. I'm a surgeon. I'm a brain surgeon. He's 95 years old. By the way, Dick Van Dyke is 99. He barely got out of the Malibu fire alive the other day. How this guy is allowed to live on his own is bizarre. It's just totally bizarre. I mean, where is Mary Tyler Moore?
I think she's already passed, dude. I think she's in the graveyard.
Oh, sorry.
Michael Murphy, happy Hanukkah, or is it Chanukah? You were spot on regarding the drone research. Atlantic City Airport. They spent $5 million on a new taxiway. Some company you told us.
No, they've been using the Atlantic. It's not off the radar, but it's off the beaten path. It's not so easily. It's an international airport, by the way, the Atlantic City Airport, which I didn't realize. But that is. I mean, it's so funny because this cat comes on yesterday, John and Ferguson, whatever his name was, who's got this drone company out in Kansas. And first he made a YouTube video going, I'm just a guy from Kansas who makes drones. And I think these are, Chinese drones. Okay, now he's on every single channel spinning this Chinese drone story. Okay, that's fine. What do people think, that they fly back to China when they're done in New Jersey? Have some common fucking sense. Where are the Chinese drones going to fly? I mean,
there is one possibility.
Hunley's with them. Go ahead, Hunley.
No, I'm saying this is a possibility. I'm not going to say it is it. Yeah. But China has been buying farmland.
Oh, that's the other spin. Stop it. Okay, let me just explain the Chinese farmland story. The Chinese farmland story, they bought a farm alongside of, I think it was in Colorado or Kansas, might be Missouri, but they bought property alongside of a base, an army base out there. So the army went to court, the military went to court, and they have now banned the sale of property. This is how slick they were and how quickly they moved, to anybody wanting to buy property alongside a military base has to go through the United States Army to buy that property all over the country. That's why they did it. That's why they spun that story. But go on. I'm sorry.
Which is good. I mean, there is a concern about them buying property. Hell, they bought property here, Smithfield, all the farmland, and there's a lot of military here. So China's been doing it for a while. Yeah. And I'm
the way to do it is to pass legislation.
I agree.
Right. They didn't do that. They're now trying to pass. They went to court. And they went to a military court and did it. They are now trying to pass legislation, which is what Greg Kelly is talking about, which is this Drone Patriot Act, which will cover, even this will be in there. The land thing that you're talking about is going to be in there too. But the idea that these Chinese drones are flying from New Jersey somewhere to land in Chinese-controlled territory. By the way, they're taking down the Chinese police station in New York, in Manhattan, a story we covered over a year and a half ago. They're now going to go and dismantle the Chinese police station, which they were operating. The Chinese claimed it was for people who were living in China looking to renew their driver's licenses. That was their defense in court, but apparently people saw through that.
All right, correspondent from New York, Al Gonzalez. NYPD sources say lone gunman theory won't fly. Luigi having accomplices is the working theory as of now. At least one hotel lookout suspected.
Right.
Don't rule out a honeypot either. Yeah,
I'm not.
Like honeypot.
I like honeypot. I like paying a guy with all your resources to be the lookout. There's got to be other people involved here, and he vowed not to ever rat them out or whatever his thing was. But I guarantee you, they have got to get to the bottom of who he was on the phone with. I believe it was a lookout, a bellhop, or a maitre d', or someone in that hotel, or a Politico who may have been involved with him, or maybe a honeypot,
or both.
Yeah.
Pushcart Jimmy. Sorry, gifted 5 America's Untold Stories memberships. Thank you very much. That's a new name on the board there. Don't think you've given them before, but we do appreciate it. And on that note, we are going to head over to Locals, where you can become a member for free. Continue watching. I mean, the show's commercial free on Locals. So if you're saying, well, wait a minute, what do I get at Locals if I don't pay for anything? Well,
Can I say something about that? Yeah, I mean, why don't people just watch it on Locals? The people who are so upset about commercials. I don't understand.
They can, yeah. And if you catch us later and you want to watch a repeat, no commercials, you can watch on Locals.
Okay.
There are no commercials there. You do help us out if you do it on YouTube, and we're not demonetized on a video. We actually will get a little bit of money from the ads eventually. We do appreciate that, but there are different options available, and we are going to head over to Locals.
I just want to say something else before you head over there, and that's about subscriptions. We got that email, Eric and I, from YouTube, this end of the year
the embarrassment
end of the year embarrassment, where the entire year we had 70 million views and we had just 10,000 subscriptions. The math on that is insane. That means for every 700 humans who watch this show, 1 subscribed. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, there may be other nefarious things going on because it's the lowest subscription model I've ever seen to actual views. 70 million Americans in the past year watched America's Untold Stories. 1 out of 700 subscribed. That's how insane it is.
Well, let's put it this way. We got 107,000 in our first 3 years and change. And then this year, 10,000.
Well, no, it's not. It's 2 years. It's 2 years and change.
Oh, no. Yeah. Sorry. It's 2 years. So,
yeah, 2 years. And then this particular entire year, for a whole year, we received 10,000 subscribers. Yep. It's impossible. Yep. It's mathematically with 70 million. They tell you straight up, Eric, in the email. Am I reading this wrong? Did it say 70 million viewers?
Views.
No, but
it's not that many viewers. No, I mean somebody watches 10 videos.
70 million viewers, views or viewers.
It's
70 million people watched it. 70 million Americans said, I'm going to watch this show if I'm supposed to believe this, and I don't give a shit what they do. I'm not going to subscribe to this channel. I'm just going to milk it because I'm a fat piece of crap. I'm just going to watch it for free. I'm not going to subscribe to anything. I'm just going to watch it, be one of the 70 million who gets away with this whole thing for free. 10,000 people subscribed from 70 million views. I'll put that. I'd like to see any other number that's higher than that in this universe.
Actually, on that note, we do have somebody who has thoughts about that exact subject.
It is me, Saturnator, and if you do not want a fat piece of coal for Christmas, you will subscribe to this channel now. Do it now.
Maybe that'll help for Christmas. I mean, you don't want to be on the FBI 10 most wanted list. I understand. But subscribing wouldn't kill you. I'll put it that way. They really wouldn't kill you.
I totally agree.
10,000 in 1 year. Think about how mathematically impossible. You could have fell over drunk and hit the button 5,000 times in the course of the year and subscribed. That's how ridiculous that number is. And yet we're supposed to live with that as Americans. Well, this communist, this guy from India, is down there in Mar-a-Lago apologizing to Trump for giving $2 billion to Kamala Harris. Hunley and I have to live with this Marxist revolutionary who owns YouTube.
But on that note, we're going to head over to locals where the water's nice and everybody can join and hang out.
I'm going to the bathroom.
Okay.